Hello everybody, welcome back to more Chaos Head Noah. I say welcome back to Chaos Head Noah, but this is actually the Psy'Min from the end of the video, who has time traveled back into the middle of the video, or at least where I split the video, because I recorded this entire other new ending with all the delusions and the new stuff in one shot, and then tried to figure out where to cut it up as I went. I thought about cutting it into 3, but you know what? I'm going to cut it here. If you watched the previous part, you basically saw all the delusions that I picked, whereas obviously the first time we went through the game, we just kind of coasted through everything on neutral and picked nothing. This time picking green or red as the new ending dictated, and that was basically the first half. I decided to cut it here. If you watched the last video, you saw all those delusions, and now we are past the delusions, and we are basically on track to get what is our new ending. So this is going to be the new content, past all the delusions, just seeing what happens differently, and whatever thoughts I have about this entire sequence, I'm just going to save until the next video. But I just figured this part needed an intro, so here I am, time traveling back from the end of the video to the beginning of the video to say this, and now I am done saying it, and now you can watch the rest. Here we go. Okay. Shinjunsation of the Onigashira line was one stop from Shibuya, with it taking only about a minute to arrive there by train. I think something new happens here. Again, we are just boosting past things. I'm trying to be careful to look for new stuff. And I think there's a new thing here. We are very close to the end. I have gone all this way here. The chapter name is different. It's Crying Sky instead of Silent Sky, so we've definitely got a new ending locked in. And I think the deviation starts here. So let's see what happens. The station itself was situated within an underground tunnel, resulting in only the natural light being the beams seeping in from the opening at the end of the platform. Due to the earthquake, all of the lights had gone out, enveloping the area in a far thicker darkness than usual. Carrying Orihara Kazue's body on her back, Aoi Senna set foot onto the platform. So far, so good. There had been no need to buy a ticket. Not a single staff member was present in the vicinity, and none of the ticket machines were in service. Only a glance was necessary to understand how horribly warped the railway tracks had become. It was no wonder the trains had suspended operation the day before. Kazue's breathing would turn laborious at times, but she was far from conscious. Dried blood was caked on her forehead. During the earthquake, she had been caught in the wake of a collapsing building, and had not regained consciousness since. Oh, she's doing a lot worse, actually. Gigalomaniacs are unable to use their powers to heal wounds. To the brain, pain is an inescapable reminder of reality. Again, as someone who does hypnotherapy, and a lot of that is pain relief work, I question this, but you know what? I will roll with your fiction logic. Thus, Gigalomaniacs cannot form any sort of mutual recognition to the effect of, I'm not wounded, or the injury didn't happen. Except that's exactly what Takumi is going to do in a bit, at least on the other route. They're not allowed to do it except when they can. Human instinct would never allow it except when it does. Moreover, one cannot establish mutual recognition with someone who is unconscious. Okay, I'll give you that one. These reasons rendered Senna unable to assist Kazue. When they at last reached the deserted platform, Senna lowered Kazue from her back and gently laid her against the wall. Senna's expression was stiff. With only a single glance toward Kazue, she shifted her gaze back to the station premises. Glaring motionlessly at a certain point in the distance, she gritted her teeth. Yes? Finally. I finally found you. At the end of her gaze was 2 people, and this is why I stopped fast-forwarding, because I saw this bastard. In the dark recesses of the platform, 2 figures stood shoulder to shoulder. One was a tall man wearing an expensive suit. His whole body exuded an aura of refinement. He had excellent posture, and a relaxed smile rested on his lips. The other was a homeless man, clad in filthy rags. His hair was unkempt and shaggy, and his face was covered in stubble. The man's head was hung low, rendering his expression difficult to accurately discern. Their appearances contrasted violently, but the 2 men did nothing but stand silently on the dim, empty station platform. Senna felt nothing but raw hatred toward the both of them. Narose Genichi and Hatano Issei. Even if she wanted to forget about them, she would never have been able to. The ones who killed my mom and sister. Here to say hello to me? A long time ago, her mother and her little sister had met their gruesome ends right before her eyes, and the people before her now were the very people who had killed them. It was never my intent, Senna. With his head still hung low, the homeless man, Hatano, let out a desolate murmur. I tried to stop the experiment, but once the gears had begun to turn, I was no longer able to stop them alone. This man. Hatano took a fleeting glance at Narose's expression. Narose said nothing. His composed attitude remained unmoving. This man, he was the one who ordered the experiment's continuation. I never desired what came afterward. The fault lies with this man, Narose. I don't think she cares. You had a hand in it. Don't you lie. Please understand this, Senna. Senna's repugnance billowed as she listened to his words of repentance. You let my mom and sister die. That is an undeniable truth. If you regret it so badly, why did you run? To protect the world. Bullshit. I cannot say I admire this disobedience toward your father, miss. It was the first time Narose had spoken. Indeed, your family meeting a tragic end was the result of the order I had issued. We had already collected a sufficient amount of data. The experiment truly was fruitful. Fruitful? Senna swiftly rebooted the D-sword she held in her hands. The resulting shockwave stirred her long black hair. Yeah, I'm not sure he has access to the Noah thing right now. I'm sure there's a rucksack somewhere nearby. Kill him, Senna. He is the source of everything. Is this a delusion as well? This very well could be. I don't need you to tell me that. Senna had already kicked powerfully off the platform. Without brandishing her sword, she closed the distance, a phenomenal display of her exploding power. Her target? Narose Genichi. Which that probably wasn't. She mowed him down with her D-sword. Even the air was torn to shreds. Narose's head tore free and flew away from its source. Okay, so it definitely wasn't him. Senna followed it with her eyes when, suddenly, Narose's flying head distorted mid-flight and transformed into that of her father's. Yeah, that too. Just like Narose did with those two guys, the minister and whatever, the founder. Stunned, she looked at the headless body that stood before her. It had been wearing a suit only a moment ago, but now it donned the clothes of a homeless man. Devoid now of any and all power, it tumbled backward lifelessly. Well, we saw that coming a mile away. Eyes wide as could be, Senna looked at Hatano, who had been standing just beside it. He turned to face her in response. His bearded face warped into a vicious sneer, his face contorted as if a mosaic had been affixed to it, and his body contorted in a similar fashion. Oh, never mind, it's you. That makes more sense. The very next instant, Hatano took on the face of a man Senna did not recognize. So there is a rucksack here, and you're wearing it. His age, his face, his aura, they all differed greatly from her father's. Senna was overwhelmed with confusion. She took another unblinking look at the head she had just severed. After tracing an arc as it flew, it had splattered blood upon where it struck the concrete. It was her father's face, it was her father's head. Senna could not look away. An illusion made by a delusion. Realizing that, Senna's breathing grew shallow and ragged. You know, Senna-chan. The man who was supposed to be her father, the man who was now a completely different person, spoke Senna's name in a far too friendly way. What you did just now, doesn't it pretty much make you the same as your old man? Yeah, but we were tricked into that. It was the result she had longed for all throughout these past 6 months. Yeah, not the one she really wanted, just the one she said she wanted. It should have been, yep. It should have been, and yet Senna was assailed by a fierce inner turmoil. Her father, who had been reduced to just a head, had his eyes trained directly on Senna. Decapitating your own father. Now that's gnarly. Well, you killed your dad in this timeline. You didn't in the other one. That was just Senna doing it directly, still not comprehending why she was experiencing such psychological shock. Senna heard something tear deep inside her ears. Also, what's Kazue going to be up to? I heard a voice. The scream of Senna's mind. Okay, this is probably Takumi. Maybe. Yeah, it looks like it is. A scream which cursed reality. A scream which emulated madness. I followed that cry all the way to Shinzen Station. But by the time I got there, it was already too late. So how exactly are we going to find out where Narose is? Because Hatano told us with his dying breath, or inner voice or whatever, last time. And this time I don't feel like he got the chance to do that. When I set foot onto the dimly lit platform, the faint smell of blood hung in the air. Kazupi was lying against the wall unconscious. And there on the platform was Senna, sunk to the ground with her back facing me. Her head was pointed down and her long hair was covering her face. I couldn't see her expression. Right beside her was a headless body. It then occurred to me that the round object lying a few meters away was the head that had once been attached to it. It was Hatano-san. The moment I realized that, I bit my lip hard. Well, damn it. Oh man, talk about a stroke of luck. Is this part going to be the same? A man was standing on the tracks. Contrasting heavily with the suit he was wearing, he had a rucksack on his back. A harsh mechanical noise was emanating from it. Suwa Mamoru, a detective from the Metropolitan Police Department's Investigation Division. This wasn't the first time I'd run into him, and I knew exactly what he'd done. You see, I originally came here to get rid of those annoying-ass Hatanos, but look who decided to crash the party. What's up, Shuji-kun? I really appreciate you tossing yourself into the line of fire like that. I was told to grab you if I ran into you, so here we are. Alright, I'm gonna see if this changes any from here on in, which it probably doesn't, but if it does, I'm gonna time travel back and we'll just do it again. Okay, things do go a little bit different here. I don't know how different, but I noticed something right off the bat. We accuse Sue of killing Bond. Yeah, what of it? That's the same response as before. You're a detective, yet you go as low as to kill people? Well, that's real rich coming from you. I gripped my D-sword tightly. As if I'd ever be polite to a bastard like you. Like I said, that's really fucking rich coming from you. Even from this distance, it was clear to see the smile on Sue's face had disappeared. Again, no, it hasn't. It's gotten much worse. You're just as much of a murderer as I am. And no, I won't let you call bullshit. You killed Hazuki Shino. Not really. I could go back through that scene, but I'm pretty sure she slit her own throat. You have no idea how much I'd love to tear you to fucking shreds right now. Did I kill her? I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. I'm pretty sure. Hazuki Shino, the nurse who had been the real New Gen culprit, she and Suwa were both disciples of the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light. Was that all? I gulped audibly. For the sake of the Divine Light's salvation, I'll restrain myself, but in exchange, I will make absolutely sure to murder your heart and mind. I attempted to brandish my D-sword, but it was obvious I wouldn't be able to do anything. Why not? It was just a reflex, and just like I'd expected, I wasn't able to do anything at all. Hang on a second. I need to back up. Did I skip over? I zipped through that scene, but I thought she killed herself again. She slit her own throat. Let's see if she didn't. Yep. As her own blood gushed forth from her neck, her entire body was painted a bright crimson. She slashed her own carotid artery. We did not do that. He's a real Esper. Yeah. Noah 2 terminal port. Scalpel. Up against her throat. I didn't do shit. What the hell are you talking about, Sua, you asshole? And now we're back here. There's only one dude in the chair. I found myself in a dimly lit room, and that room was a single man talking to another much older man through a large screen.
Suwa-kun, kimi to Hazuki-kun ni yatte moraitai shugyo ga
I've
aru.
prepared a form of training I'd like for you and Hazuki-kun to undertake. Uh-oh.
Hai. Nannari.
Yes, sir. Whatever you ask.
Hito wo koroshite moraitai.
I want you to kill.
Aite wa dare desu ka?
Who is it I will be killing, sir?
Aite ga nani
There is no particular reasoning regarding who. Oh, is this the explanation behind the, either the second incident or the fifth?
To moushimasu to.
Humbly, sir, may I hear more?
Toku ni kimari wa nai.
Let us say there are no exact rules on the matter. Simply obey the orders of whom to kill and how to kill them. So, Suwa and Hazuki cooperated on the new gen killings? To bring about the completion of Project Noah, it is crucial that we enact a psychological attack upon the boy known as Nishizu Takemi. Well, that sure was a thing.
Yusaburi.
An attack, sir. You must instill in him the greatest of terrors. But beware, for the boy harbors a frightening power. Direct engagements will require extreme caution. Therefore, I ask that you create a string of abnormal incidents, a set of grotesque serial killings. So we're finally getting an answer as to why this stuff happened. Murdering people just for that? Having doubts? Is Shino to take part in this training? Why, of course. This is all to build our utopia of the divine light. You two shall bring about the salvation of the divine light. If that is what you command, then it shall be done. Incidentally, Hazuki-kun has blessed us with a child within her womb. Pray tell, how soon is the delivery?
あと2ヶ月ほどです。
2 months, sir. Offer it forth. Offer your child so that we may bathe in the salvation of the divine light. Okay, so it is Sua's kid.
殺せとおっしゃいますか?
You wish for me to kill it? It is a holy sacrifice. Offer your child, and you will both bring about the great salvation of the divine light. The great salvation of the divine light.
かしこまりました。
With pleasure, sir. All will be as the glorious founder commands. I know Shino will be similarly pleased. May the divine light save us. So, Suo was the father. That was the suspicion. Suddenly, an insanely powerful wind blew against me. It pushed me backward hard, nearly knocking me over. So does this fight go different? I tried desperately to brace myself against it. However, my body didn't do what I asked. Instead, my body curled up into a ball on the spot. My body wouldn't listen to me. It moved by itself. It was like my body wasn't my own. Oh! Interesting. Before I knew it, my surroundings had gone completely dark. When I looked below, I saw the nightscape spreading out before me. If I didn't know any better, I could have easily mistaken all the lights as a sky full of stars. I suddenly realized that I was standing ridiculously high up. Beside me were 4 men and women I'd never met. No, I knew one of them, Yua. For some reason, though, she wasn't wearing her glasses. Yeah, you don't realize that that's Yua's twin sister. But beside me were 4 men and women I'd never met. That wasn't Yua. It was Mia, Yua's younger twin sister, the one who should have died a month ago. Which meant this was... yeah, the roof of Cornelius Tower. So who's actually in the wheelchair exactly? My body wasn't my own. I was wearing a school uniform I didn't recognize. Even the body type was brawnier than my own. Okay. And when I saw that there were 4 other people huddled together on the ground, wailing loudly as tears poured down their faces, it led me to guess exactly what was happening. This body that my consciousness had invaded belonged to one of the 5 victims who had died in the first New-Gen case, the group dive. Through no will of my own, my field of vision ever so slowly panned over toward the helipad. Shogun had filmed the video, so he should have been here somewhere. It's just the stupid Darth Spider helmet. Shogun was wearing a Darth Spider helmet on his head and a black cloak draped over his body. Okay, so he is there. When Shogun had cornered me at O-Front, he'd been wearing something similar. But was this guy actually Shogun? No, it's Shogun. No. His legs were slightly peeking out from his black cloak. He was very clearly wearing slacks. In addition, his legs were thick, like those of a healthy adult male's. They weren't the skinny, pathetic legs that belonged to Shogun, to Nishiju Takumi. No bones protruded from them. And when I looked closer, I realized that even his sitting height was completely different. The cloak kept them hidden, but his shoulders also looked fairly broad. At the very least, this man wasn't Nishiju Takumi. And he wasn't carrying a video camera. Suddenly, from the darkness spreading out behind the fake Shogun... Show me more CGs. I heard footsteps. Dragging footsteps. And not just one set of them. It wasn't a hallucination. The strange footsteps belonged to many, many people. There had to be several dozen unknown entities lurking in the darkness. What the hell? The footsteps hadn't been in the video that had been uploaded on YouTube. Not to mention there shouldn't have been any way for this many people to have gained access to the helipad. I mean, they could have edited the audio. Then what the hell was this sound? The 4 others beside me continued to wail in grief. Through no will of my own, my body similarly let out a cry and then began to tremble. The hell? I was going to say maybe it's some rucksacks, but something was coming closer. If I was in a low-budget horror movie, those dragging footsteps would have been zombies. Zombies with both arms hanging down limply in front of them. Their decaying bodies slowly swaying as they walked. But that was just in the movies. In reality, and especially in 21st century Tokyo, there was no way a horde of zombies could possibly just show up like that. But if that was the case, then what were they? My heart felt like it was going to seize up in terror. I wanted to look away, but the owner of the body I'd invaded refused to do so. Finally, the unknown entities began to emerge from the darkness. They choked all remaining space on the helipad, sealing off our escape route. Is this why we jumped? Because an army of zombies was after us? I wasn't sure if it was right to call it anticlimactic, but the ones who appeared were perfectly normal people. They wore suits, school uniforms, parkas, and they were of different ages and sexes, but they were still all people you'd expect to find walking around Shibuya at night. Save for one thing. Every one of the nearly 100 people there was gripping some sort of bladed object. Well, none of them said a word nor even tried to. All that could be heard was their raspy nasal breaths pooling together into an abysmal cacophony. For some reason I couldn't see their expressions very well. It was like their faces were made of paint that had been blurred by water. Their faces were blurry and disfigured. Were their faces actually deformed? Or was my sight itself the problem? I didn't know. They were sluggishly yet steadily coming toward us. Well, this is why they jumped. They were like robots that had been programmed with a single mission. I thought that perhaps the fake Shogun was ordering them around, but that didn't seem to be the case. Every once in a while, he would move his wheelchair forward slightly, only to skip the line so that I couldn't read it. The 5 people had all been cornered, so in order to escape, they had no choice but to dive. Grasping the blades, the mob grew closer. Closer and closer, little by little. Eventually, they were within reaching distance. And yet, even in these final moments, they all stayed completely silent. As well as this, even as they drew nearer and nearer, they didn't make any attempt to jump on any of the victims. But this strange behavior only served to make them all the more terrifying. Terrifying enough to make me think, I need to get out of here. even if it means I have to
その
jump.
目誰の目
Are we the one who said that? I heard an unexpected voice. Was it ours? The voice of the real Shogun, Nishiju Takumi. Never mind. However, I hadn't heard it from the man wearing the Darth Spider helmet. I heard it from me? Overhead? And it seemed like I hadn't been the only one to hear it. As if they'd rehearsed it, the five-cornered people all stood up, joined hands with one another, and looked up at the night sky. Naturally, only the starry sky spread across the night. Shogun was nowhere to be found. Mind reading.
その目誰の
Whose eyes are those eyes? My field of vision slowly panned. And then I saw something strange. Now you saw something strange. Even though the nightscape should have been the only thing spreading out below me, I saw a long flight of stairs stretching downward. It led right to the roof of the adjacent building, not Sign City, which was across the Metropolitan Highway, but the building nestled up close to Cornelius Tower. Does this explain why that one tower wasn't in the video? A building nestled close to Cornelius Tower. A fact that didn't make any sense because no such building existed in reality. Even so, the five people held no suspicions that the staircase was delusionary. All they thought about was how they had been saved by it. These thoughts, these emotions were conveyed distinctly to me, then with only one thing in mind, they stepped forward. Aha! Hand in hand. Yeah, they didn't jump. They went down the stairs. They had let go even once. None of them had possessed any desire to dive. So when the staircase they had been so convinced was real disappeared, the feeling of empty air deeply shocked them, and as they fell, falling, wind pressure violently assaulting my body, the shrieks of the girl next to me emulating howls of the most terrifying of beasts, her nails dug into my flesh. The time it took for us to fall, the dark earth rushed toward us with incredible speed. Our surroundings were so dark I started to hallucinate about falling into a never-ending abyss, and then things slowed down so I could actually frickin' read them. The bodies of five people collided with the earth. That just kept going on its own. I didn't touch jack. Who reads that fast? Come on, guys. Slow down. With a sickening crunch, they were pulverized. The pain struck without me expecting it. A single blow that led straight to death. The impact felt like my entire body had exploded and then been ground into a fine powder from the inside out, which is basically what happened. I felt the sensation of my heart violently contracting from the shock. And then my consciousness was severed. Back to the subway. Never mind. Oh, wait, is this a new one? Are we going to be the person who gets cut open for the man-child? Because this isn't where that happens. My eyes were forced open and a new scene burst forth in front of me. I was walking down to Tamagawa-dori. My body was completely intact, yet the sensation of crashing into the ground remained distinct. Are we basically going to get kidnapped so that Hazuki can have her way with us? Through no will of my own, I was walking down the street as if it were any other day. This body was more in shape than my own. This wasn't me. I had a terrible feeling about this, as you should. Suddenly I noticed a strange man walking toward me. And when I saw him, I was forced to acknowledge that my terrible feeling had been warranted. It's, of course, Suwa. The man passed me. Never mind, he was wearing a fairly normal suit, but on his head he had a Darth Spider helmet. It was all too surreal. There wasn't anyone else around. I wanted to run away as soon as possible. And yet, despite my wishes, the owner of the body my consciousness had invaded looked over their shoulders the man he had just passed. Darth Spider was right behind me. He was so close I could almost feel his breath. And then, bursting out of my blind spot, his fist flew straight into my stomach. And we ended up somewhere we did not want to be. I'm assuming this is the victim of the second attack. All the strength left my body and my vision went black. Not long after I lost consciousness, yes, I began to feel an intense, searing pain spreading through my abdomen. We know how this goes. Welcome to the hospital lights. When I opened my eyes, I was in an operating room. Wearing only white scrubs, Hazuki Shino was standing in front of me. Her scrubs were wide open, revealing her bloodied abdomen. Even though her face was a sickly pale, she looked at me with a gentle smile. In her hand was a scalpel she slowly laid against my stomach. She applied some pressure, and with a slight ripping sound, a small incision appeared on my skin. Blood spurted from the wound, dancing through the air before landing on Hazuki Shino's face, and yet despite that, the same bright smile stayed plastered on her face. I watched in horror and pain as she slowly sliced me open. I had seen this before, but only when I had read Hazuki's memories, yeah. The man-child case. Are we going to go through every single case? This is going to take a bit. The pain in my stomach was becoming unbearable. Screaming and sobbing, I tried to escape somehow by thrashing around, but my limbs were all fastened to the bed. Yeah, she's got you. I was unable to move. Any movement would lead to the pain in my abdomen growing far more intense. May the divine light save you, sir. Oh, it's going to take a lot more than that to save me. This again. With her head resting upon my cleanly sliced open skin, Hazuki began poking around in the gushing wound with her fingers. That alone pierced me with enough agony to shatter my mind. I could very clearly feel the sensation of her fingers writhing around inside me. Why do I need to relive all this? Hazuki forcefully widened the wound from both sides. Yep. The sensation of skin and flesh tearing, the lack of anesthesia left the pain raw and unfiltered. Oh, I can't wait to relive the fourth one, causing me, along with the owner of the body, to lose consciousness, only to be woken up immediately again by the overwhelming pain. But Hazuki kept forcefully widening the wound all the same. The details no longer mattered to me, such as where it hurt. Is this why everything had to be so gross and disgusting, to traumatize us when we relived it? I hallucinated all my nerve endings being pierced with searing hot needles. I passed out again. But I couldn't escape. The pain mercilessly forced my consciousness back awake. I let my body writhe in pain. I found myself thinking that if I would release me from this suffering, I would be willing to bite my tongue off. But then I saw the blood-soaked fetus, something that only made her smile all the more revolting. This woman was well and truly insane. Yeah, no kidding. She took the corpse of the fetus she had removed and then plunged it inside my abdomen. Her hand and the fetus she was gripping tightly in it shoved aside my organs, gouged out my flesh, and gnawed deeper and deeper inside me. I began to vomit blood, but even though it threatened to suffocate me, gnarling screams rose from my drowning throat without end. Perhaps due to the pain overloading my brain, my head felt strangely foggy, and yet despite that fogginess, the pain refused to get any more bearable. Pain was all that ruled my mind. Hazuki then withdrew her hand from my stomach and nodded in satisfaction. You've done so well. Such a good patient. Have a fucking lollipop. But the second she finished speaking, she suddenly lost consciousness and her body collapsed to the floor. And about the same time, someone entered the operating room. Hi, Sua. The sound of his shoes reverberated throughout it. But I had no interest in whoever it was. Yeah, I had bigger problems. The sole thing I focused on was continuing my bawling and screaming. Unable to feel anything but agony. Seeing the unnatural expansion of my stomach, I fell into a panic. Along with the pain, I began to feel an itchiness. No kidding. It was itchy. Really, really itchy. I wanted to scratch it, but you were still tied down, eh? Yep. None of that for you. Hey, Sue, a little help? Suddenly a shadow struck to my view. It was Darth Spider, appearing from almost nowhere. He picked up Hazuki in his arms, exited with her, and then came back a few minutes later. I was wondering who was going to take care of that. He was carrying a sewing needle and some nylon thread. What he was thinking I didn't know until he began to stitch together my stomach. The pain was practically nothing compared to the pain of having a foreign object shoved inside me, nor the agony of having my flesh ripped open. But still, wasn't a picnic. Even a school grader could have done better than his sloppy sewing. Every time he pulled at the fishing line, it chafed against the chasms he'd opened in my skin. The itchiness grew more intense. Yeah, we're going to claw at that later. An unbearable itchiness. An itchiness that seemed to well up from deep inside me. Itchy. 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 I wanted to scratch it, because it was itchy. If he'd just let me, I wouldn't even mind if I died. The tingling itch combined with the pain, and yet even more than the pain, the itch threatened to drive me completely insane. Due to my mental state, it took me a while to notice that the scenery had changed once again. I felt slight relief from the pain and the itchiness, but the sensation hadn't completely disappeared. Even now, as I stumbled through Shinzen, I felt an itch in the center of my body, but along with that itch, I felt the sensation of a foreign object in my abdomen, as well as the pain of a needle weaving in and out of my body. Yep. They all remained as distinct, lingering discomforts, continuing to torment my mind even now. Because that thing's still in there. I was on an unlit, rarely used road. As I walked down it, I saw a figure coming toward me. The road was so narrow, we would have had to turn sideways in order to even pass each other. But when I saw what the figure looked like, my body turned to ice. Yet again, it was the man dressed as Darth Spider. We passed each other. Darth Spider didn't give any kind of reaction. Do I get a graphic here? My heart was beating out of my chest, and then something surfaced in my mind, an incredibly compulsive urge, one that made no sense for me to feel. A crusty old fuck had been hitting on my girl. It pissed me off like you wouldn't believe. I wanted to kill him. You okay? That extremely abrupt feeling drove me forward. The face of my girl was foggy in my memories. I couldn't remember her very well, to the point where I wasn't sure if she even existed in the first place. And yet the crusty old fuck who had been hitting on my girl was crystal clear in my mind. I'd seen his face before. He was the victim of the crucifixion case. I still don't know what that pun is. Crucifixion, whatever. My memory launched forward, placing me in a dark, narrow alley. Okay, we're back on auto read, an alley I knew all too well, the scene of the crucifixion, and right in front of me was the victim of that case. He was a middle-aged man. What's his name? Otto. His body convulsed violently, bubbles frothing from his mouth. Boy, I hope you guys can read faster than I can. Eventually, the man stopped moving. You know what's happening. When Komeda, the perpetrator of this case, confirmed he was dead. Oh, the guy who was caught. I released my hands from his neck and let him collapse. The guy whose fingerprints was on the cross and got arrested. I gave him a single parting kick in the side, then went to leave. I'm sorry? I heard a voice, and when I turned around, the man who was supposed to be dead was getting up. Well, I still rolled into the back of his head, and then he reached for me. I thought he was pinned to the wall. With a yelp, I punched him, knocking him to the ground. But even though his movements were sluggish, he kept getting back up no matter how many times I hit him. I grabbed his neck again. Just as I'd done earlier, but this time with even more force, I wrung my hands tightly around his neck. Sometimes it goes super slow, sometimes it goes super fast. I put all the strength I had into my grip, applying enough pressure to snap his neck. He stopped moving again. Okay. Made sure he was dead. So did the rucksack guy, in this case I assume Suwa. Instead of killing someone himself, he got someone else to do it for whatever reason. And this guy who should have died keeps getting back up. That's not cool. Rising from the ground, he started coming at me. So this is a hallucination, a delusion that Komeda is having that is, making him do that. Having to drive a stake into him and pin him to the wall so that he stops moving. This is the delusion that forces him to go through with the murder the way that Suwa wants him to. Where'd you get the stakes from, by the way? Had a hammer. Started staking him. Yep. And the neighborhood heard that for like a half hour. Once again, I found myself in an operating room, but it wasn't the man-child case again. So we're going to go through every single one of them. This would be the vamp buyer, which I assume is going to probably be Hazuki again, but maybe not. But that's the end of the crucifixion case. But now we know how that went out. Okay, so now we know who Komeda was and why he did it. And I guess the other person's delusion, like when Remy said 4 people's delusions were mixing together there. Ours, hers, Suwa's, and Komaeda's? Despite knowing that, the pain from that experience, coupled with the sensation of a foreign object in my stomach, continued to torture me. It ground away at my each and every nerve ending. I could see 2 figures in my field of vision. They both were standing as still as could be, staring in my direction. One of them was Darth Spider, so it was both of them. And the other was Hazuki Shino. Big surprise. Her scrubs weren't soaked in blood this time, which was what had led me to believe that this was a different case than the man-child one. I was lying on a bed. A needle for an IV was embedded in my arm. You're not going to like that in a minute. However, nothing was being injected into me. The liquid in the tube was flowing backwards, and the liquid was blood. No, I need that. My blood. What is this graphic? What is this supposed to mean? It was being sucked out through the IV. At the end of the tube, there was only an extremely dirty bucket. It was filling with blood. So yeah, just draining the blood out of them and then dropping our body off in the washroom at the subway. Drip, drip, drip. My head felt fuzzy. I was incredibly dizzy. I was assailed by an intensely peculiar sensation. My consciousness was floating away. Yeah, having low blood pressure will do that. As if showing off to me. Yes, Darth Spider and Hazuki tenderly embraced each other like lovers. As the two supported one another, Hazuki's face couldn't have looked happier. Ah, cultists. I couldn't understand how she could make a face like that while in the middle of creating the dried-up corpse from the vampire case. But it's salvation! But before I could think about why I couldn't understand it, the pain grew more intense, my throat was sapped of all moisture, vision darkened, conscience grew thinner, until it went away completely. And then we'll go to the numbskull. This one we've already seen on the big screen. I then realized this was a vicarious experience. That's a word for it. I was being forced to experience the series of new-gen murders vicariously. I was facing the pain of each case, the fear, one by one. You just twigged to that now. We twigged to that after the second one. That was the fourth. If that was true, then there were still 3 remaining. Realizing that, my despair pulled me down even deeper. So what's going to happen after this? Hopefully we don't have the same throwing stake fight that we had with the other ending. I feel like they're going to be smart enough to mix it up from this point on. Because we've got the new ending locked in. Doctor? Someone called out to me and I came back to myself. I should have been in the operating room, but I was standing in the hallway of some hospital. Yeah, we're Takashina. Unsurprisingly, though through no will of my own, my body turned around. Behind me was Hazuki Shino, accompanied by a somewhat somber expression. Excuse me, Doctor. I would like a word with you. We've attracted attention out here, so please follow me. Or we'd attract attention out here. Her voice apologetic, Hazuki entered an examination room. Yeah, what you're about to do would attract attention. My mind screamed, "Don't go," at Dr. Takashina, but unsurprisingly, my voice didn't reach him. It was currently after hours at the hospital, so no one else was in the exam room. Hazuki walked steadily toward the center of it. I, Dr. Takashina, followed her without even the slightest doubt. And then she abruptly stopped. "Oh, hey, you again." Just as I wondered what she was doing, a man wearing something black on his head leapt out from the darkness. I reeled back startled, only for the man to shove something akin to a piece of gauze over my mouth. And just like that, my consciousness was stolen away. Chloroform doesn't really work that fast. An ear-piercing noise rang through my head. My skull was vibrating violently. Yeah, it'll do that. Thank you for that sound file. Everyone enjoy that ASMR. But it wasn't just vibrating, it was being shaved to dust. I felt that sensation incredibly clearly. The sound died down, thank God, and when I opened my eyes, the text had already moved on. Like a collection of numerous eyes, many lights bore down on me. They shone down, illuminating my face. Your cranium's been removed, Doctor. Oh, Doctor, your turabouter's so pretty. In a thoroughly enchanted tone, Hazuki said those words, picked up a pair of scissors, and used them to cut away the solid membrane covering my brain. I felt the sensation directly, and immediately following it, I was seized by a sickening, almost frustrating feeling. I, or rather Dr. Takashina, hadn't known that Hazuki had the ability to perform surgery, let alone brain surgery. As a result of this, my mind erupted with surprise and other liquids, followed by me noticing my body was incapable of moving. She wasn't alone, though. Darth Spider was there? Yeah. Man, Darth Spider, the real villain. But he said nothing, he simply stood in place. There's been cases in which non-respirated patients have remained alive in a state of brain death for upwards of an entire week. Were you aware of that? Because we're going to try and break that record. Without losing the gentle smile on her face. In other words, people can live for quite a long time without the brain. How long will you live for, I wonder? I don't want to know. I don't like this game. This is a weird way to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. Hazuki held a spoon out in front of my eyes, only for it to leave my vision. May the divine light save you. I know I keep joking nothing's going to save this poor bastard, but, you know, that light's going to have to be pretty damn divine to save some of these poor folks. Yeah, inside sensation, something entered your brain and moved around. No pain. Still disgusting. Ick. Hazuki shook off a pace of something. Yep. Beautiful pink color smashed into a pulp. Yep. Realizing it was my brain, my sense of dread peaked. Yep. Please stop. No, don't do that. No, she's, this is number 5, buddy. She's not stopping anytime soon. 2 scoops of Dr. Takashina. Suddenly I was having fun. I wanted to laugh. Suddenly I harbored intense hatred. Oh, because she's poking around in your brain. Suddenly I felt happy. Do you smell burned toast? She's stirring your brain, stirring her emotions along with it. That easy, huh? Well, that's the end of that one. Finger food is next. And then we have the DQN puzzle. Emotions different to what I myself felt boiled up within me. Because of these emotions, my mind, heart, and soul were drifting away from the consciousness known as me, forcing me to confront the ambiguity of my own existence. As the mental rape that sought to deny my own existence tore my mind to shreds, I found myself walking under a railway overpass. If I went off the case order, this time it would be the finger food case. Yep. As I'd expected would happen, my body was now a woman's. I was incredibly hungry. Perhaps the victim had been on a diet or something. This was a weird one, because it corresponded with Nanami losing her hand. I crossed paths with the man in the Darth Spider costume once again. Everywhere I went, he would show up. Considering how much his appearance stood out, why hadn't the police or mass media gotten anything on him at all? That looks pretty tasty, eh? Shut up, Sua. It was the first time Darth Spider had said anything. He pointed at my right hand as he spoke. It was a surreal spectacle. For some reason, I was holding 5 bare chicken skewers. Yeah, where my hands should have been, each one sticking out from the gaps between my fingers. It's so weird. Warm-looking steam rose from them, as did the juicy aroma of cooked meat. Both things further stimulated my appetite. Saliva overflowed from my mouth. Unable to wait another second, I took a bite. Yummy! A sharp pain shot through my finger, but I couldn't stop chewing. I had never had such incredible, delicious chicken in my entire life. Yeah, that's not chicken, that's your hand. Tons of juices escaped from the meat, dribbling down. It was delectable. It was to die for, or will be. In the blink of an eye, I had cleaned the skewers completely. And before I knew it, Darth Spider had disappeared. But it didn't matter much to me. I didn't even care about the man at all. I wanted to keep eating. Nom nom nom. My stomach cried out for more food. The fingers on my right hand throbbed with pain, but my hunger easily overrode it. Once again, I looked at my right hand, and that's when I realized I hadn't been holding chicken skewers. Oh, I'd also been carrying a large slab of meat. Oh, the glorious protein was still fastened to the bone. Delicious. When had I gotten my hands on this? How long had it been there? Not important. Chow time. I sank my teeth into the meat with all the strength I could muster. Boy, did that hurt for some reason. I ripped a chunk off, chewed it, tasted it, then gulped it down. Boy, when the church wanted to find some ways to do extremely gruesome, horrible murders, they sure recruited the right couple to take care of that, didn't they? Yeah. Yep. You keep chowing down, tore the meat off the bone. That's your hand, but okay. Yeah, for some reason it hurt so bad you thought you would die. And you're gonna. Yeah, just keep chowing down on that finger food. The text is just going on its own, so you know what's going on. We know this case. The 5 slender bones. You're just going to gnaw on the bones? Okay. Apparently the rucksacks aren't enough to override the pain. I wonder if that's going to factor in some way, because I was taking the piss out of the game earlier for not being able to deal with pain when even I as a hypnotist can do that. But maybe that pain is going to be a factor for countering the effects of the rucksacks and stuff. It's like in One Piece when Boa Hancock tries to turn everyone to stone, but that one Marine stabs himself in the hand to keep himself from being affected. Yep, writhing in agony, exposed bones. You immediately pissed yourself. I hope you enjoyed your last meal. Okay, this one should be interesting because the DQN puzzle. I opened my eyes in a dim back alley. The scenery was a little different from before. I was walking down the alley while leaning on a male DQN's shoulder. This is probably after Kazupi finished messing everyone up and her and me had taken off, and we're just leaving the alley. His face was horribly beaten, and he looked like he was about to cry. Ah, poor baby. The three of them, including me, we were in awful condition. Our clothes were soaked with blood, our faces were swollen, and they all had a number of chipped teeth. The person who'd done this was probably me. I don't know about that. I still think it was Kazupi. It was the three DQNs that had beaten me up, and after that happened, they'd have their torsos torn apart and died. Once again, the man in the Darth Spider costume was there, standing at the end of where we were walking, who technically recruited them. And I think I commented on that at the beginning of the video. Yeah. Hey, asshole, the fuck was that? The guy who was lending me his shoulder shouted at Darth Spider, but with his face as it was, any impact it could have had was pretty much halved. What the hell was up with that Nishiju piece of shit? He was like a fucking monster. Oh, so we did do that. Interesting. So he turned the tables on you and you ran away. Lame. Man, Darth Spider even talks like Suwa. Just give us the money already. Hand it over. Money? Don't play dumb with us. You said it yourself, asshole. You said you'd pay us if we scared Nishiju shitless. One of them grabbed Darth Spider. Holding him by the collar, he lifted him up, then hit his black helmet with his hand. You had us go through some pretty fucked up shit. Take off the mask. Take off the fucking mask. He forced the helmet off. I had already predicted the face that would be under it, and of course, to the surprise of no one, there he was, Suwa Mamoru, looking completely unfazed. He was Suzuki Shino's accomplice, so he was another culprit behind New Gen. Suwa rammed his knee deep into the stomach of the man grabbing him. His agile movement sent him far apart from the reckless violence of the DQNs. Well, since I'm all done with you three... What was that? The ground shook slightly. What was that? Behind Suwa there was a presence, hidden in the darkness, deep within the narrow alley. Something was there. It's Suzuki riding in a mech, rumbling with an eerie growl, and from what I could tell, this wasn't a normal size. Even though we couldn't see it, the fierce bloodlust given off by that monster made all of our hearts seize up. What the hell? Excuse me? Eventually, with footsteps that sounded like the very ground itself was rumbling, it showed itself. A literal, real-life monster. This has to be a rucksack-inspired delusion. It was so unbelievably grotesque, nothing else like it existed on the earth. Its brown, slimy skin glistened, and its gigantic head sat wedged between its shoulders. Its scarlet eyes shone brightly, its mouth tore open on both sides, and its wrists were as thick as giant logs. The bipedal monster came up beside Suwa and opened its gaping maw wide as could be. Its rows of sharp fangs glistened, reflecting the burning glare of the streetlights. This is your cue to run. Its roar was like a low, dull growl, and yet it was more terrifying than anything I had ever heard. No beast could ever hope to compare. A roar with such ferocity, even the very souls of all who heard it would tremble. How come the neighbors didn't hear this? What is that? Okay, so I'm really into Spark Wars. Is this the Star Wars ripoff? Is this where we learn how Star Wars fans suck? Suwa was the only one who didn't seem bothered by the monster's appearance. On the contrary, he touched the monster's leg in blatant satisfaction, caressing it. This bug guy is one of the aliens from it. Is this the Rancor? It needs a fancy name, like the Spankor. Something to avoid copyright. Another roar. The monster stepped one step closer to the frozen still trio. We tried to run, but there was no escape. We screamed for help, but there was no one around for kilometers. An overwhelming difference in power. Yeah, no kidding. The difference in potential between our species was too great. The three of us were helpless when faced with the beast before us. For the first time in our lives, we experienced fear from the deepest depths of our hearts. When someone is frightened like that, they fall silent, shrink back, and can't move even a single muscle. And so, The monster let out a single breath and swung its log-like arms. I thought we got pulled apart while we were alive. I guess not. Or did he just knock us in half? In an instant, as if they were mere rag dolls, the two of them were torn to shreds. Blood and viscera splattered across the alley, steam rising from the remains. The severed corpses of the two men were then viciously tossed aside, skewering them on the handles of a nearby telephone pole. So that's how they got up there. And that just leaves you. Sua's gaze pierced through me. I realized then that he was the one controlling the alien, of course. I told myself this was a delusion, but there was no point. Yeah, again, what's with this whole mutual recognition thing? If I just choose not to recognize that, can it go away, please and thank you? In the face of absolute terror and overwhelming brutality, I simply slumped to the ground and pissed myself. Well, we've been doing a lot of that lately. All I could do after that was look up in a daze at the monster, and then... my torso was ripped apart. I felt this in a way no other human could ever possibly experience, and then I stopped breathing. No wonder it's hard for them to tell how some of these murders get done. They're literally inventing monsters to do it. What could possibly have torn these people apart? Something that existed for like 5 minutes and doesn't anymore. Alright. We're done with that delightful sequence. That's number 7. How many times had I died vicariously? 3 times? 1 time? 7 times? 7 times. It was 7 times, I counted. 4 times? 2 times? 5 times? Human flesh tasted amazing. That's not the lesson to take away from this. It hurt. No more. Darth Spider's outfit was surreal. It had to be a joke. So wait, how many times had I died? Wait, who died? Not me. I wasn't dead. That monster was seriously straight out of a horror movie. But that monster was from, Sua said it was from Spark Wars? So what? Human flesh tasted amazing. The bones, too. Why was Darth Spider black? He wasn't. Hazuki Shido was sexy, but she was scary. She was crazy, but that was what made her sexy. Don't stick your dick in crazy. How many times has Psy'Min said that over this Let's Play? He's had plenty of opportunities to say it, let me tell you. If Darth Spider was made of bones, what was human flesh? How many times had I died in this prank? Or was it a prank? No, I wasn't dead. I was dead. Death, dead, dead. It was surreal no more. There was bones. Don't want to die black, I died. So kill me. We can come back to the subway now. Alright. What's happening now? Inside the rucksack Sua wore on his back, which we really need to do something about, the port let out a strange mechanical sound. Sua had long since grown accustomed to hearing it, and because of that sound, he had been able to murder the heart and mind of the gigalomaniac Nishiju Takumi. He lifted up a heartfelt prayer in gratitude. No matter what, Sua would have never let Nishiju Takumi get away with what he had done, for the boy had driven Hazuki to suicide. We got away with it last route. Hazuki was Sua's childhood friend, whom he had lived with ever since he was born. Really? Childhood friends who they lived with since they were born. Sua recalled what she had told him several years ago, back when he had decided to aspire to become a detective, and she to become a nurse. Hey, backstory. Mamoru, I want to have your baby, and stuff it in someone else. Both of their parents were disciplines of the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light, and God and the glorious founder had been in their lives since birth. Sua and Hazuki had both been raised as children of the Divine Light, and their betrothal was the will of the glorious founder as well. And so, the two of them dutifully obeyed the teachings of the Divine Light, going so far as to offer the life of their child within Hazuki's womb. Even when Hazuki had given her life as a martyr, she had still believed she was doing the right thing. Also this still puzzles me. The 7 incidents, colloquially known as the New Generation Madness, Sua and Hazuki had caused them together, so yeah, that's fully confirmed at this point. We knew Hazuki was involved, but yeah, it was the two of them, upon the church's request, which we also suspected. Partway through the incident, Sua had grown quite flustered when his senior, Ban Yasuji, pointed out all the inconsistencies in the group dive video. It's like, darn it, I was proud of that. The video Suwa had uploaded to YouTube had been recorded by projecting his memories. However, as it had been a few days since the incident at the time of recording, his memories had grown far less clear. Ah, I see. He had not remembered the exact details of the scene, but since the video would not have been realistic without them, he had expressly gone to Cornelius Tower to review the photos hanging in the lobby. As a result, the video had indeed been made more realistic, but he had failed to choose the correct picture. He'd had no reason to suspect that something would look so strikingly different between the tower's completion and the present. However, thanks to the political influence of the glorious founder, all of that had been suppressed. So that's why Suwa jumped up and said, "Hey, wait a minute. Interesting. I guess it's not just Shogun that has the ability to project his memories onto film or print. I guess this is just a function that they've been able to steal from the Gigalomaniacs via Noah and these rucksacks as well? It would be unwise to underestimate the power of the Cosmic Church of the Divine Light's glorious founder. He had many connections within the government, and he had even managed to weave several of his followers into management positions at the Metropolitan Police. No matter how much those like Ban cried out for justice, the natural conclusion to come to was that they would never be able to do a thing to harm him. Mind you, the founder died in the other route, but whatever. Suwa's position as a detective, Hazuki's position as a nurse. The support coming from the pressure the glorious founder placed on the police and the media, the Noah system terminals provided by Nozomi Technology. Utilizing all of these tools, Suwa and Hazuki had focused solely on killing. As for the reason they had gone to such great lengths to continue killing people, it had all been for the sake of breaking Nishiju Takumi. But did it. After they forced him to awaken as a Gigalomaniac, they would kidnap him and harvest his code sample. Alternatively, by breaking the delusionary Nishiju Takumi, they would lure out the real one, capture him, and harvest his code sample. As long as it was Nishiju Takumi, it made no difference if he was real or a copy. That was why Suwa had acted as Nishiju Takumi, using a wheelchair in his impersonation attempt. Yep, we figured that out a while ago. It had all been foretold by a divine prophecy bestowed upon Suwa and Hazuki, one they had to fulfill no matter what sacrifices they would have to make during its course. So is this like the Suwa and Hazuki ending that we're getting here? Is this going to be the extra bad ending where we don't even get to go to Noah? I mean, Hatano is dead. How's he supposed to tell us where the thing is? And now, after sacrificing Hazuki, they had at last been able to overcome the trials given to them by God. The face of the woman who had loved him, and the one whom he had loved in return, rose in Suwa's mind. He gritted his teeth in intense sadness, bearing the utmost grief. Yeah, to be fair, only one of you is living this route, at best. As he bathed in sorrow, Suwa approached Nishiju Takumi, whose mind he had just slaughtered. Could Senna do something? I know she's having a bad time too, but it'd be great if she could just stand up and do that decapitation move again. That might actually be her. I can't tell. I was right. At the edge of the platform, Aoi Senna cradled the head of her father, whom she herself had decapitated. She had fallen to her knees long ago, and now she sat alone atop the train tracks. Her chest dyed a deep crimson from her father's blood. She laughed. Drool slovenly seeped out from her mouth. Her eyes were unfocused. Suwa, now having composed himself, glanced at the girl. She's already long gone, he muttered to himself inside his head. You may regret that. In any case, her usefulness had expired, and he felt no need to kill her. From the Gigalomaniacs who had been gathered in Tokyo for Project Noah, there were still two whose code samples had yet to be harvested. Oh? I guess it would be Takumi, and the other one would probably be Yua, since she only just became one, maybe? Do they even know about her? Ah, okay, there we go. Orihara, okay, so they don't have Kazapis, but they don't even know about Yua yet. This number excluded Kuzunoki Yua, for she was an irregularity that had never been suspected of being a Gigalomaniac. The remaining targets were Nishiju Takumi and Orihara Kozue, so that kind of excludes Yua from being the person who was in the office then, too. Because if they never suspected, unless only Genichi knew, but why would he not tell Sua? It had to be the infallible guidance of the divine light that the two of them had fallen right into Sua's hands, in the same location even. He had now received total proof that his actions had always been proper and just. For this, he held endless gratitude toward heaven and the glorious founder. Upon reaching Takumi, he dropped to his knees, grabbed the limp boy's upper arms, and attempted to forcefully pull him to his feet. But Takumi had already gone hollow. He was no longer capable of standing. His heart and mind had perished completely. Serves him right. With a snort, Sua began to walk away, dragging Takumi by the arms along with him. Senna, you're just gonna have a moment? Alright. Okay, that sounds like a Kazupi. Unless someone's remembering something. Code sample being collected. Yep. What's with the lowercase? Kazupi was shouting something, sounded painful, like she was hurting, maybe having fun? That's not the fun voice. I blinked my eyes. Where's Kazupi? Where's my capitalization? She was hanging from some weird cross art. Rimi was at her feet. She was lying on the ground, tied up round and round. Kazupi was weird. Her clothes were torn a lot. They were in pieces, and there were creepy crawling. This narration is odd. Creepy crawling, what was? Her shell? Her skin? Her cheeks and her neck and her arms and around her belly button and up her thighs and creepy crawly squishy wishy. We're back to this language. Lots of thingies were wiggling under Kazupi's skin. Is this how code samples get collected for Noah? Not one. 10 thingies, 20 thingies, maybe 30 thingies? I think they're parasites. Yucky little caterpillars. Yeah, we're not quite back to our senses yet. Kazupi shakes her head around. Her eyes went everywhere. Lots of drool, dribbly, drip dribbles. We're kind of talking like Kazupi right now. Her face looked super stupid. Looked funny. And she was also wearing a thingy on her head. Is it the thingy with the little bulbs on it like Ayase and Senna's mom were wearing? It had lots of cords coming out of it, like a toy. Like a super duper Power Rangers toy set or something. Yeah, we're not entirely lucid. Is there something amazing? Nishiju Takumi. An old guy I'd never seen before. Who? Ah, I see. So you've unconsciously synchronized with Orihara Kizue's delusion. You're quite the curious specimen, aren't you? I'm impressed I could read all of that. So that's why we're talking like Kazupi. Maybe we've unconsciously synchronized with her delusion and therefore to an extent with her. There's no need to show such fluster. I'll make sure to target you plenty for something after her. Wait. I'll make sure to treat you to plenty of torture after her. Okay, I got it. Who's next? Me? I didn't want that. Who's next? Me? No, I didn't want that. Who's next? Me? No, I don't want that. Wait, I found my capitals again. Oh, you're in trouble now. I didn't want any suffering. I didn't want any pain. I just want proper grammar. Taku, you can stop him. Right now. You can stop him. I know you can. My wrists should have been tied behind my back, but suddenly, as if it had a will of its own, the cord loosened and fell to the floor. Tied up and lying on the ground, Rimi turned just her gaze to me. Her eyes pleaded with me. A gigantic device sat in the center of the dome-shaped room, giving off an eerie hum. That is Noah 2. Destroy it. Rimi's eyes asked this of me. A tall, intellectual-looking man, Norose, had his back turned to me, and he was watching Kazupi's torture with an earnest look on his face. He hadn't noticed me moving. There was no one else around, not even Sua. I could do it now. I was the only one who could. Judging by the other route, no, you're not going to be able to. But I was scared. What if Norose caught me? What if I failed? When I thought these things, my body began to tremble. There was something seriously wrong with this game, forcing the fate of the world onto someone like me. This game has things that are wrong with it, but that's not it. But I had to do it. That realization and resolve came to me with surprising ease. Maybe I'd grown stronger. Yeah, that was it. I was strong. I was super strong now that I didn't have to fight 100 Sarachans to get here. I stood up slowly. Narose still hadn't noticed. I don't think he cares. He knows this isn't going to work. For a final boss, he was a total dumbass. Was it that fun watching Kazupi suffer? Raw disgust flowed through me. I gritted my teeth. Come forth, D-Sword! Ripples appeared in the open air, and a blue light burst forth. I grasped it. I felt it. Neither cold nor hot, neither hard nor soft. I drew it from the Dirac Sea, and a long, grand sword settled in my hand. Of course he's going to notice that. He finally noticed me, but it was too late. I real-booted my D-Sword. I sent particles flying into everyone's dead spots. I'd done it completely unconsciously. The method that I'd used or how it worked didn't matter to me. I just had a delusion, and it had just come to me. Now I have the Sarachan army! Ha ha ha! What up? I gripped the hilt of my D-Sword with both hands. Its glow transformed from blue to red. Your heart and mind should have been annihilated. Narose stared at me in disbelief. He was shrinking back. I'd won, only if he can't get his hands on his sword. I grinned from ear to ear. His sword is currently occupied. Raised my sword and formed a delusion. This was a sword of light. It possessed incredible power to cut through the very air itself. If I called forth all of its power and swung the blade, it could reduce anything on this earth to rubble. Take this, I couldn't come up with a name for my special attack right on the spot, so I just gave up on shouting something out. Besides, this wasn't some shonen manga. I took the power I'd stored in my D-Sword through my delusions and unleashed it all toward Noah too. And had zero effect? That seemed like more than zero effect. 2 months later... That's it? Boy, that was quick compared to what happened in the other route. Noah was supposed to have a defense mechanism where you couldn't consciously take an action against it. And the only reason we destroyed it was by taking an unconscious action against it. So this time we're just like, nah, you go boom now. 2 months later. The winter sky was barely blue, but in exchange, unlike the summer sky, it was crisp, cool, and carried an almost translucent aura. It was morning. A few minutes ago, my eyes had opened to the sound of my alarm clock, and now, as I brushed my teeth, my gaze shifted up toward the sky. It had been 2 months since that insanity. Shibuya was still in the midst of its reconstruction efforts. Are we our boy? Ever since the new year had first kicked off, little by little, Shibuya had slowly been returning to its noisy, gaudy-ass self. I guess we're our boy. Taku! A voice called my name. It sounded like a Rimi, and it was a Rimi. When I turned around, I saw Rimi making her way up the stairs. I hadn't seen her in her school uniform since that day. Yeah, blood's a bitch to get out. Rimi gave me a big smile and took a salute-like pose. Bishi?
Bishi?
Ohayo gozaimasu. Let me get some breakfast whipped up for you. Gonna eat some asagohan. Rimi was holding a bag from the convenience store. Inside were some eggs, milk, and white bread. Where do we prepare this? Standing in front of the sink. Oh yeah, we've got a little area over there. Standing in front of the sink, she cheerfully started making preparations. For the past 2 months, Rimi had made it a point to come to my house pretty much every morning to cook me breakfast. Apparently, she hadn't done much cooking before she met me, so this doubled as practice for her. Who can't make eggs? I wanted to tell her not to use me as her guinea pig, but just being able to eat a girl's home cooking at all made me happy, so I just bit my tongue and put up with it. Hopefully biting your tongue doesn't taste better than her cooking. School starts up again today. You excited? Ever since the earthquake, Sume Academy had been closed down, but it was finally reopening today. I planned to use this opportunity to leave behind my semi-shut-in lifestyle, starting by seriously attending school. To be fair, you don't have to because you're smart, not because you're a shut-in. You know, just the thought makes me pretty happy. Getting to go to school with you again, I mean. As she said that, Remy cracked open an egg. As one would expect, it wasn't exactly feasible to eat outside right in the middle of winter. You'd freeze your ass off. To avoid that, Remy carried inside the 2 servings of toast and scrambled eggs she'd made for us, and set them down on the small table beside each other. And once her hands were free, the 2 of us sat down next to each other on the sofa. This is a much happier ending than last time. Well, dig in!
いただきます。
How's everyone else doing, though? Thanks. How's Nanami doing? What's up with her arm? After putting my hands together, I reached for the butter sitting at the edge of the table. Yep. However, Remy had done the same thing at almost the same time, and our fingers brushed up against each other atop the container of butter. Of course. What a rom-com-ass plot point. Smiling wryly at that in my head, my eyes soon met those of Remy's, who was sitting extremely close to me, and my heart began to pound. Remy didn't take her eyes off me, nor did she pull back her hand. Both of us had gone rigid, staring at each other as our fingers touched. Taku. Remy entwined her fingers with my own. Aw, her eyes softly closed, and then she ever so slightly lifted her face. Naturally, I held Remy's hand in return. I slowly neared her lips, and then Nanami came crashing in. Okay, someone came crashing in, but I don't think it was Nanami. That sounded like a Yua. It sounded serious, so it could have been Senna, but Senna would have been louder. Yua? Flustered, I jumped away from Remy. Oh, it was Nanami. Wow, okay. Hey, you have a hand. Isn't that cool? When I looked up at my door, I saw Nanami standing there. I had no idea when she'd shown up. All I knew was that her arms were crossed and she had a pretty exasperated look on her face. You are not the heroine. Go away. Nana-chan, good morning. Ta-ha-ha. Nanami, don't do stuff like that. You're going to give me a heart attack. Well, I see you and Remy-san are sure getting along. Makes me kind of jealous. You're not in that kind of game, Nanami, and you should be grateful for that. Real talk, though, I'm curious. How far have you 2 gone? Whoa, wait a minute. How far? There you go again. Quit playing dumb and just tell me already, Remy-san. Seems like Nanami had selected Remy as her next target. Barging into my room, she pulled aside my computer chair and sat down in front of Remy. Obviously, you 2 have kissed, but what about beyond that? Hey! Stop teasing me! Oh, come on, you know you love it. Now tell me. Not telling. Well, fine, then you tell me, big bro. How far have you 2 gone? That's not the sort of thing bros confide in their sisters in, I gotta tell you. I'm not telling you. Besides, we haven't even kissed yet. Gah, why do you have to remind me? God, I'm such an idiot. I've had so many chances before now, I hate myself. At this rate, it felt like I'd never lose my V card. Starting to get depressed at how much of a loser I was, I gulped down some milk. You never know, Remy-san. If you take it too slow, I might just end up stealing him away from you. Not that kind of game. And there goes the milk. Practically a gallon of milk spurted from my mouth. Ew, that's nasty. But you just... I was just kidding. Don't be so uptight. Ugh, can we please stop trying to give me a heart attack? I need an explanation for the hand, though. Let's not skip that over. Side by side, the 3 of us walked to school together. Remy was humming that Phantasm song again. Passing through the center of Shoto Park, we took my usual shortcut. You can still see a few traces of the earthquake around the park, for example. Part of the stone wall circling the pond was still broken. Even then, though, it was still way better off than the rest of Shibuya, especially when compared to the sad state of the center of it. There's Yua. We get to revisit everyone. Good morning. Yua was sitting on the bench. Turning toward us, she put on a gentle smile and bowed her head. Nishija-kun? I had a lot of fun yesterday. Part of me thinks that all of this is still just a delusion, and we haven't actually destroyed Noah. We've just been put in this idyllic sort of outcome where we're like, oh, everything's fine. And that's just kind of the dream world it's holding us in. to protect itself. We'll see. I'm not sure this is a good ending yet. I don't trust like that. I had a lot of fun yesterday. Yesterday? Yua and I went shopping together in Akihabara. Oh, I see. You went to buy dolls. They're figures, not dolls. Action figures. They're cool. Well, it was true we'd gone to buy figures. The moment I got home, I put my brand new Sarah-chan on display in my room. Oh, I wish I could have gone. What? Remy, are you interested in figures? When I asked that, Remy gave a slightly sheepish smile. Well, it's more like... I want to like the stuff you like, Taku. Wow, talk about bold. Alright then, you can come along next time. Huh? Really? Thanks a bunch. Psy'Min gets to do the same girl voice 3 times because he doesn't have another one. You and Remy had really hit it off. Hopefully Kazupi's doing better than last time we saw her. Hopefully Senna's doing better than last time we saw her. And Ayase's probably just Ayase. Yua and Nanami's classes were both in different buildings, so we said our goodbyes at the school entrance. As I changed into my indoor shoes, someone came up from behind me and blew into my ear. I shuddered, goosebumps springing up all over me, jumped away and spun around. Okay, I was figuring if it wasn't Remy, it might be Ayase. There stood Ayase, wearing a narrow smile. I guess we're a little more familiar now. Ohayo, Takumi. Have we not dealt with Gladiole yet? You seem awfully happy for someone who was kind of on a mission. Oh, morning. Morning, Aya-chan. Aya-chan? Ayase tilted her head when she heard Remy call her that. I've never been... This is the first time someone has ever called me that. I do not mind it. Glad you like it. Over Moro, there will be a Phantasm concert. Over Moro! The only book she has ever read is that damn book of Psalms and Revelations, I swear. She abruptly changed the subject. Unsurprisingly, Ayase was as hard to get a read on as ever. If you would like, come to it. Was it like the last one? Because I feel like our boy might lose his V-card then. Is that directed at me? I am indeed talking to you, Takumi. And to Remy. Whoa, really? I'm going 100%. Yeah, she's your biggest fan. Phantasm had broken up a while ago, but I'd heard that they'd have a sudden revival after the New Year's started up. I didn't know whether the change of heart... I don't know where the change of heart had come from, but what I did know was that I wanted to hear more of Ayase singing. But I will not give you Takumi. Oh, we're having a little competition here? I wondered about that blowing in the ear. I didn't really know what was up with the butt, but Ayase reached out and softly caressed my cheek, as if she was showing Remy her place. See you later, Takumi. Boy, she warmed up. With a bewitching smile, she climbed the stairs in front of us. In a daze, I watched her go without the faintest clue of what had just happened. Taku! You're drooling. Huh? What? I quickly shot a hand up to my mouth. Aha, gotcha! Okay, Senna should be up here. When we reach the outside of our classroom, or Kazupi, or both. That would be Kazupi. Kazupi came racing down the hallway, her smile stretching from ear to ear. And she fell. But before she could make it to us, she suddenly crashed into a boy coming out of the classroom and landed flat on her butt. Her eyes swimming with tears, she apologized to the boy, then finally managed to get over to us. Yeah. Are you okay? You know you shouldn't run in the halls, Kazupi. No. Was that a yes or a no? Kazupi started fidgeting. She then looked up at me from below. Well, it was because I wanted to tell Takumi-chan something super duper fast. What did you want to tell me? Look! Senna? Kazupi pointed in the direction she had just come running from. Hey, there's Senna. When I looked closer, I saw Senna standing there, leaning against the wall. Mad as ever. Her arms were crossed, and she had a fairly sullen expression plastered on her face. Senna-san's out of the hospital. Oh, she was in the hospital? What for? I mean, she had a bad day that one day, but physically she was fine. Senna had been hospitalized over the past 2 months. Oh, Sua's psychological attack had put her out of commission for a long time. Okay, so the psych ward. So what happened to Sua? We look like we're in the good ending here. Surely he didn't escape retribution. Senna raised her head and slowly began making her way toward us. She was just as scary as ever. She always carried a certain aura, one that gave off the impression that she would suddenly slap you even if you hadn't done anything wrong. I had gone to visit Senna in the hospital twice a week, but no matter how many times I tried to make conversation, she never said so much as a single word. The awkwardness had been torture. Could it be that she just hated me that much? I didn't really know how to handle her. A fierce tension hung in the air between us. Then again, it would have been more accurate to say that only I was freaked out. She was fine. Just bring her a Crunchy-kun. Yeah, when school's over today, let's go celebrate. Senna-chan's getting out of the hospital. Kazubi was the only one showing any sort of enthusiasm. Well, I mean, a party with this kind of atmosphere would be pretty shitty. Nishiju. That was when Senna finally opened her mouth. I shrank back, refusing to meet her eyes. Here. Is it a winning stick? Yay, it's a winning stick! Haha, called that. I guess you owe me that back, don't you? Senna held something out to me. It was a small stick with the word win written on it. Oh, it's a winning Crunchy-kun sticky stick! Bewildered, I accepted it. Senna quickly looked the other way. I have something I want to tell you. What is it? Was it just my imagination or did Senna's cheeks turn pink? Just thanks? Oh, there's a new sprite! All the girls are professing their love. Okay, we're definitely in a Noah delusion. There's no way this is real. Come on. Come the hell on. This ending is called Crying Sky. Does this look like a Crying Sky ending to you? That is a cute sprite, though. I like you. Huh? What? Everyone's shocked. And then now it's Kazubi's turn. No, he's mine. Oopie? Her sudden confession left not just me, but Remy and Kazubi all speechless. For a moment, I thought she was just teasing me, but Senna wasn't the type of character to make those types of jokes. Which meant, are you serious? My God, I lost my capitals again. Oh, look, she can smile. When you came to visit me all those times, it made me happy. Don't make me say it, you idiot. I'm back to Tsundere mode, you baka. She had gone all dare, then straight back to Sun mode all on her own. Wait, go back a little. That was way all too sudden. I'm not making that noise. Way behind schedule, Remy let out a cry in surprise. Kazubi, likely still processing, had her eyes wide open. What, Sakahara? Do you have an objection? Yeah, lots. That, whatever. You just can't. Kazubi's just question marks. Remy and Kazubi were utterly baffled, but the most bewildered one of all of us was me. I would never expected something so insane. Without any idea of how in the hell I was supposed to react, I gazed up at the clear sky sitting outside the window. You know Senna eats a lot of Crunchy-kuns when she's just unconsciously got her hand up in the I'm holding a Crunchy-kun position even when she doesn't have one. Somehow, even though the semester had only just started, it was already quite the eventful day. I wonder, will every day be like this from now on? Will these fun, peaceful times go on forever? I'm being set up, come on. I sure hope so. I wished for it from the bottom of my heart. Suddenly I saw the reflection of my face in the window. The reflection I saw wasn't me, because, is it, Mizumi? It was covered in wrinkles! Wait, what? Color and light disappeared. I was hugging my knees close to me in a space dyed pitch black. In front of my eyes was the only light source around. It was like a monitor. It was like a window. It was like a picture frame. We're getting all meta. We're Let's Playing Shogun, Let's Playing Chaos Head Noah. Look, you can even see the dialogue options on the screen there. He's in Chapter 7. Inside it, Remy, Senna, and Kazubi were chatting happily about something, but I couldn't hear their voices. I stared at it. My emotions were completely inactive. Or maybe my heart was simply dead. I then realized I had been watching my own delusions. A 2D world where I had escaped into. A perfect delusion. I knew it. How long had it all been a delusion?
最初からですよ。
From the very beginning. Hey, there's a CG we haven't seen yet. Spoilers game? Jeez. I knew it. We're back here. I looked behind me, where Neros stood tall. But with how dark it was, I could only see his feet.
諏訪君に心を殺された。
Suakun annihilated your heart and mind, did he not? So ever since he'd done that, I've been stuck in a delusion this entire time? I thought the game was going to get meta and say that the game was my delusion.
君のコードサンプルは採取できました。
I was able to harvest your code sample.
用済みですから。
Now that you've served your purpose,
いつも家に帰ってもらって
you are free to return to dust, whenever you please. I knew we'd come back here. I knew it was a too good to be true ending. I felt nothing. My heart was dead after all, so I shouldn't have felt anything. And yet, a single tear trickled down my cheek. In the end, I'd gone right back to being a loser. I had run away from the painful reality.
最後に幸せな夢を見
How wonderful it is
てよかった。
that you may see a pleasant dream in the end. Even to the very end, I have been a completely worthless human being. I'm sorry, Remy. I apologized, but I didn't really understand why I had to anymore. I didn't feel any guilt. And so I decided to return to my delusion from earlier. Hopefully someone would kill me one of these days. So until then, I wanted to fully immerse myself in the happiness that came from the world I'd escaped to. Back to Fantasyland, and that's the end? Not the end yet. When had the rain begun to fall? Or perhaps this rain had been brought on into the world by Noah too. A gaze rained down from the sky. Are we back to getting killed by Remy? The stare pierced through the thick, pitch-black rain clouds and poured down on me like rain. We're back on auto-scroll mode. It's too late for him now. I whispered in my heart to the owner of the gaze. We lost. Bad ending. I didn't feel the chill of the rain. So Nerose wins in this one. Instead, the droplets on my cheeks felt warm to me. It was the first time I'd ever thought of rain as being warm. Perhaps it was the fault of the spine-chilling cold enveloping the dome where Noah 2 was. Reflected in my eyes was a ruined city. Reflected in my eyes was despair. Reflected in my eyes was death. Reflected in my eyes was nothingness. Not a soul was here. Not a soul was moving. Not a soul was left alive. The only thing I could hear was the sound of the rain continuing to pour. The ark had already been set in motion. The ark! We had been unable to stop it, and now the future held nothing but despair. At this rate, everything, both the living and the dead. Would it all be gently embraced and washed away? Technically, Nerose wants to make everybody happy. I heard him whisper all this inside my heart. His heart is so beautiful. I walked. You did? Oh, to the figure lying limp in the rubble. We're Remy. Oh, it was my fault he had ended up like this. If I had done better, he wouldn't have gotten involved at all. Are we seeing this from Remy's perspective now? Has this whole dialogue been from her point of view? Feelings of guilt tortured me. I blame myself. Okay, well, she feels guilty, so never mind. Forgive me. I'll give you peace now. How he had been born was far too sad. How he was going to die was far too sad. A heart so timid, so fragile. It was like it was made of glass. Glass so pure, it had shattered its owner to pieces. At the very least, I didn't want him to suffer in the end. Lying on the ground, he looked up to me with vacant eyes. I pushed aside my emotions. Though I was looking at him, I tried to distance myself in an attempt to stave off my tears. If you and I were the only ones left in the world, if we stared into each other's eyes like this for all eternity, Yes? Would my world be reduced to what's reflected in your eyes? You've heard that term before. Would your world be reduced to what's reflected in my eyes? The only thing reflected in my eyes was him. The only thing reflected in his eyes was me. When I thought of it that way, the world immediately seemed so much smaller. At least in the time you have left, I will become your world. Whether the world is painful, whether the world is agonizing, or whether the world is sorrowful, I'll make it so you no longer have to see it anymore. Hey. Gathering my resolve, I let out a whisper. Lowering my head, I spread my arms wide, almost as if I were preparing to take off, to soar above the rain clouds, as if I were trying to catch all the falling rain. All that's watching you is a delusion. I'll put you to rest now. Feathers of light danced about. They served as a gift handed down from the sky, a gift for his funeral. There's little strings like a harp in there. I hadn't noticed that before. I slowly knelt to the ground, right before his collapsed body. I'll cry if I see your eyes. I'm sorry. I can't look at them. I softly embraced his head in my arms. His body was devoid of all strength, as if he were fully prepared to die. It's all so cruel, isn't it? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll give you peace now. His demeanor told me that I wasn't just doing this for my own sake. He has a very peaceful smile on his face. But that smile was so sad. Even though I'd held it in all this time. Tears began to well up. I'd held them back because I didn't ever want him to see those tears. He'd finally found peace, and I didn't want to worry him any further. I kissed him on the lips. They were cold, desiccated, and laden with seemingly endless sorrow. And yet when I kissed him, his trembling ceased. I was overjoyed to know that my warmth was of some use to him. If I drew back from his lips, he would see my teary face. If I drew back from his lips, I would want to kiss him again. If I drew back from his lips, I would be struck with such selfish feelings, I wouldn't be able to kill him anymore. My lips still enveloping his, I sank my D-sword into his chest. The sensation of it tearing through his skin, boring into his flesh, weaving through his bones, and slowly sinking through to the center of his body. It all passed through the sword and into my hands. I'm so sorry. You can sleep for as long as you want to now. Goodbye. Oh, interesting. Was the sky blurring because of the rain, because of my tears? His body was enveloped by countless particles of light, and he slowly began to disappear. As I reached my hand toward the sky, somebody, please tell me, just where could that sky of ours had gone? Well, he was Shogun's delusion. He disappeared like a rucksack delusion, but alright. It's kind of interesting. This more or less ended the same way as the first ending. Oh, we got a whole thing here. We got the hiragana and the romanji and the English. Yeah. That was a thing. So it kind of ended the same way and it kind of didn't. This time it was more of a bad ending because the bad guys won. We still died. But at least we actually took down Noah. This time we didn't. Well, I guess we got to see this scene from Rimi's point of view. So that was curious. But now we get to do some interesting stuff. Now we're going to see what some of the other endings are for some of the character-specific stuff. I think Nanami's the first one? I'll have to check. There seems to be a recommended order. But we're going to go through the endings for the different people. I believe there's just an ending for each of the girls, essentially. I don't think anyone else has a real ending. Like I said before, this could almost be considered the Suwa Hazuki ending. But after we do those endings, then we'll get the actual, real, true ending. And we'll see how we can actually manage to get a good ending, because our boy seems destined to die just from his nature of being Shogun's delusion. And of course, Shogun essentially dies. So how is that going to be avoided? Do we figure out a way to delusion consequence-free? We figure out a way to bypass equivalent exchange, as it were? I wonder where things are going to go there. And of course we get to find out more about the other characters. And every single character, I believe, has their own thing. I guess we accidentally unlock Yua's by choosing to erase the whose eyes are those eyes from the blackboard. Of course, that begs the question, who wrote that? Was it Yua? And if not, why would that unlock her ending? We hadn't even met Yua by that point. She was a next year, so I believe she's on the floor above us, classroom-wise. But how would she be aware of that word, that phrase? It hadn't really become popularized yet. And even with her investigating us, she wouldn't really have a way of knowing about it. So I'm curious how that unlocks her ending. I'm pretty sure we unlock Senna's ending with the yes-no questionnaire that we get during that encounter with her. Nanami's ending and Rimi's and others, them I'm not sure about. We'll kind of let this go. Committee of Zero, of course, because we're doing the Committee of Zero link. They have apparently inserted themselves into the credits, too. Interesting. Yeah, apparently the dialogue in this game is quite a bit worse without the Committee of Zero translation. They also inserted some of the things that are making me kind of cringe a bit as far as the, I wouldn't say mature-rated stuff. Well, I would say mature-rated stuff. I wouldn't say R-rated stuff, but it's pushing it. It's pushing it. It's pushing it. It's pushing it. I haven't seen anything I could black out yet, but that scene with Ayase definitely came close. Maybe I'll see how some other YouTubers handled that one, too. Just like I saw how they handled the molestation. But, yeah, that was the Crying Sky ending, which I should be getting an achievement for any second. Yes, yes, you're made by mages. Well done. Carry on. Achievement, Crying Sky, reached ending B. So we have ending A and ending B. Back to the title screen. Excellent. So, whose eyes are those eyes? As I said, we got the achievement for getting all of these references, so I guess we found them all. Reached endings. 6 girls, 2 bad endings, and a good ending. 9 endings. Damn, that's a lot of endings. So, yeah, I guess we will go into the next ending the next time, and I'm going to have a lot of fun editing this entire mess, because this is going to be a long one. I'm going to split it into 2 parts. Where am I going to split it? I haven't got a clue. But you'll find out, and then we will carry on. So thank you guys again for sticking with the series as long as you have. Take care. I will see you guys around. Make sure you're following on Twitch and Twitter and all that good stuff. Love to catch up with you because it's been fun discussing the series with some people as I've been streaming too. I accidentally gave away a spoiler in one of my streams, and I'm like, wait, no, Psy'Min, be mindful of which episodes have come out already. Stop. But take care, and I'll see you guys around. Have a great week. I know you will. Bye-bye.